Welcome to Mohan Reddy's Academy. So in the past few classes we have completed about meaning, scope and development of anthropology, which comes under 1.1 in paper 1. Okay, so later I thought like starting socio-cultural anthropology, but it is because of our CEO sir Mohan Reddy. We are now starting with the physical anthropology. You can use this topic even for prelims also. Keeping in view of prelims, we are starting this physical anthropology component. And if you are talking about physical anthropology, in the introductory class itself I have explained that physical anthropology starts with 1.7 topic, and today we are starting this 1.7 which comes under paper 1, and that is nothing but the cell, the biological basis of life, the cell, DNA structure, replication, protein synthesis, gene mutation, chromosomes and cell division. So in this session, so in this entire chapter, these are the things which we will actually cover. Okay, so without much delay, let's start today's session. And so before we start this, first of all, let us understand what do you mean by organelle. Just like in our body, as we have various body parts like hands are one body parts, legs, eyes, nose and etc. So we have so many body parts which are present. Just like that, within the cells there are so many organelles which are present. What are those organelles? For an example, nucleus itself is an organelle, mitochondria itself is an organelle, lysosomes are there, Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, so centrioles. We have so many organelles. The cell itself is microscopic in nature. Majority of the cells are microscopic in nature. Let us not generalize, because there are cells which are very large. For an example, ostrich egg, it is the largest cell in the entire world. Okay, so because cell itself is majority of the cells itself, they are very microscopic in nature, though, and the organs which are present in the cells are much more microscopic in nature. So इसीलिए we will call them as organelles. हम cell में जो भी organelles है, we don't call them as organs, we label them as organelles. Okay, in this picture you can clearly observe. So the central part of the cell, it is mostly nucleus, and this is called as your mitochondria, this is endoplasmic reticulum, this is Golgi apparatus. ऐसा बहुत ज़्यादा we have organelles, and the fluid like structure. So we have gel like fluid like structure. This is visible in the form of blue, and itself is actually cytoplasm. This is actually called as the cytoplasm. So we have different organelles which are present in the cell. हम इन सारे चीज़ों के बारे में we will just study as a passive reference, क्योंकि that is not important with respect to anthropology. Then what is important with respect to anthropology? Within the nucleus we have chromosomes, that is the DNA. So the highly condensed form of DNA is called as chromatid. So हम DNA के बारे में पढ़ेंगे. Then we will study about the DNA replication, protein synthesis. Protein synthesis is once again conversion of DNA to RNA. It's not conversion, okay. So there is a procedure where DNA, from DNA RNA is born. All the types of RNA are born, and from RNA, that is read by ribosomes, and then that is called as the protein synthesis. And once again then we will discuss about the division of the cell. इन सारे चीज़ों के बारे में पढ़ेंगे. So whatever we study in the anthropology, physical anthropology, majority of the things, it has to got to do with the things which are present in the nucleus. Okay, so now let us continue the lecture. So before we start, there are different classifications of the cells. So the first classification is prokaryotic and eukaryotic. The name itself is self-explanatory. So in order to understand that, both the words are actually derived from Greek language. Both the words are derived from the Greek language, where karyon means nucleus. Karyon माने क्या है? Nucleus. So and pro माने क्या है? So before the formation of nucleus, these are the primordial cells which are actually born. So before the formation of the nucleus, what are the cells which are born? They are called as prokaryotic in nature. They are simple cells, and they consist of limited organelles in them. And then we see the eukaryotic cells, where the U actually means true. U माने क्या है? True. So true nucleus. So eventually, as the cell itself has faced so many challenges in their life, eventually what has happened? The cell has transformed into eukaryotic cell, and then the majority of the things which are present right now, we are eukaryotic in nature. Human beings are eukaryotic in nature, animals are eukaryotic in nature, majority of the plants are eukaryotic in nature. Okay, all the prokaryotic cells are unicellular, but we can't say that all the unicellular are not prokaryotic in nature. So we also have eukaryotic unicellular organisms as well. I hope you have understood this, and eventually let us actually understand the difference. एक बार इस पिक्चर को अच्छा तरीके से देखिए. So just look at this picture. So this is a prokaryotic cell and this is a eukaryotic cell. So immediately after seeing, you can differentiate which is actually larger. Obviously the eukaryotic cell is larger, and the prokaryotic cell, if you compare it with the eukaryotic cell, it is a smaller cell. And then here there is one nucleus. Inside the nucleus, what you have? Inside the nucleus we have the basic inheritance material in the human beings as well as animals, and that is called as DNA. And can you see the DNA with your naked eyes? No, we can't see DNA with our naked eyes in the eukaryotic cell, and obviously in the prokaryotic cell we can't actually see with the naked eyes, but here in the prokaryotic cell the DNA is not enclosed. It is not enclosed like what you usually find in the eukaryotic cell. It is freely floating, and this area where the DNA is present, what is this called? Eventually as we progress in the lecture hum actually padenge. Okay, so here the DNA is freely floating and it has very minimal basic organelles which are present. So because of that, that is called as the primordial cells. But how did the cells actually formed? So it all starts back to 13.7 billion years ago. So approximately around 13 billion years ago, according to Big Bang theory, universe is formed. Okay, so I don't know why it is not writing. Okay, so universe is born according to this hypothesis. Is still an hypothesis. There is no empirical evidence applicable to it. So if you believe in Big Bang theory, approximately around 13.7 billion years ago, universe has formed. Eventually later, approximately around 4.7 billion years ago, our star, that is sun, is actually formed. So after sun, what has happened? Approximately around 4.5 billion years ago, earth has formed. It got separated from our nearest star, and eventually so many collisions has happened, and then our nearest star is formed. Okay, it is because of the hit of meteoroids, the metal content in our earth has actually appeared. It is because of the asteroids, his rocky material has appeared on the earth, and it is because of the hit of the comets eventually water came into existence. Okay, so after that, what has happened? Approximately around 3.7 billion years ago, the first life has appeared. Where did this first life has appeared? It has appeared in the oceans. And that life, that cell, the unicellular organism which has appeared, it is because of so many chemical reactions which has happened during that period of time. Amino acids got reacted, eventually they have converted into proteins, and then the first basic cell is formed. That cell is called as the prokaryotic cell. That is the reason till date we call amino acids. Amino acids को हम क्या करके बुलाएंगे? They are called as the building blocks of lives. Amino acids are called as building blocks of life, because they are the thing which has actually underwent so many changes. Okay, so even if you take protein content, so what will happen? So in this digestion process, in the presence of catalyst, okay, based on some enzymes reaction, these proteins will break down into amino acids, and that amino acids will be absorbed by the body. Everything in our body is a product of protein. For an example, if you want your skin to be healthy, so what is the content which is present there? Collagen. Collagen itself is a protein. Okay, if your hairs are healthy, hairs or nails are healthy, what is actually present? Keratin itself is a protein. Okay, so if your body needs hemoglobin, hemoglobin protein has to be produced. If your body needs insulin, insulin protein has to be produced. Okay, so all these are proteins. And how does this proteins actually enter our body? We have to rely on the external source, because we are not autotrophs, we are heterotrophs. Isliye we have to consume that proteins. Proteins in the process of digestion, they break down into amino acids, and the amino acids are called as polypeptide chain. Just remember this point. Eventually after studying about this translation and transcription, you will understand what is this polypeptide chain is all about. Okay, these polypeptides will be absorbed by the body, and that is how the corresponding proteins are absorbed. Okay, so I hope you have understood. Now let us understand what is the difference between eukaryotic cell and prokaryotic cell. Okay, so if you are seeing about the difference between prokaryotic and prokaryotic obviously they are unicellular, and we have already understood that all the prokaryotic cells are unicellular, but all the unicellulars are not prokaryotic, because in the modern times we have so many unicellular organisms which are eukaryotic in nature. So eukaryotic cells में क्या होते हैं, usually those cells are larger and there are many organelles which are present apart from the prokaryotic cell, and they are enclosed by some membrane which are like a protecting agents for that particular organelle. So unicellular organisms, example bacteria and archaea, and they are not membrane bound. Whatever the organelles which are present in the prokaryotic cell, unme membranes nahi hote hain. Okay, and in the eukaryotic cell these organelles have nucleus, true nucleus, because U means true, carry-on means nucleus. Okay, so nucleus होते हैं. Majority of the organelles which are present in the eukaryotic cell, either they are single membrane bound or they are double membrane bound. Okay, so usually multicellular organisms are the animals, plants, fungi and etc. They all come under this category. And now let us understand about the cell size. If you are talking about the cell size, prokaryotic cells are smaller in size, which are lesser than 5 micrometers. And whatever the eukaryotic cell, usually 10 to 100 micrometers से ज़्यादा भी हो सकते हैं. And the cell wall, so is the cell wall present in prokaryotic cell? And it is present, it is complex also. Why? Because it is the only thing which is protecting the organelles which are present inside the cells from the outer environment. So the cell wall is complex, and here it is simple, because apart from cell wall we have other important things like the glycocalyx is there, and then we have plasma membrane. Okay, so it is little simple compared to the prokaryotic cell. And the nucleus, it contains nucleoid region. What do you mean by nucleoid region? The area where the DNA is freely floating, उस area को हम बुलाएंगे, that area which is present in the prokaryotic cell as the nucleoid region. So is the nucleus present in the eukaryotic cell? Yes, is present and is membrane bound. Now let us understand about the chromosomes. What about the chromosomes? So here only one long side loop of DNA, only one DNA, the lengthy DNA will be present, and eventually in the eukaryotic cell, yes, usually होते हैं. So chromosomes are nothing but okay, DNA in highly condensed form. The DNA in the highly condensed form, it turn out into chromatid. This chromatid replicates itself and it creates a chromosome. So the chromosome actually you can even draw like this, or at times you can draw in this manner also. Okay, so this is one chromatid, this is chromatid number 1 and this is chromatid number 2. Don't worry, we will study about everything. Chromatid के बारे में पढ़ेंगे, हम chromatin के बारे में पढ़ेंगे, we will also study about the chromosomes. We will cover each and everything, just stay tuned. And then DNA replication. So it regulates the entire genome at once. Genome माने क्या है? What do you mean by genome? Genome means the entire DNA material which is present in the inside the cell. And in the eukaryotic cell, what will happen? So highly regulated with selective origins and sequences. And then you see the ribosomes. Ribosomes are very small units. They are produced inside the nucleus. Nucleus may be there is another organelle which is present, then that is called as the nucleolus. Nucleolus में रहते हैं. Okay, ribosomes are extremely important because they help in the protein synthesis. Okay, they are very small. Obviously, they are also small in the eukaryotic regions compared to the ribosomes which are present in the prokaryotic cells. Okay, the ribosomes are much smaller in this place. And the cytoplasm. Did we study about the cytoplasm? Cytoplasm माने क्या है? The gel-like fluid structure which is present inside the cell. Okay, everything in the cell is cytoplasm. The other organelles are floating in the cytoplasm. This is present both in the prokaryotic as well as the eukaryotic cell. So now let us proceed. Okay, so there are more than 8.7 million species in the world. So कितने species हैं? So there are, it is estimated that there are more than 8.7 million species which are living in the planet Earth along with us, and they are either composed of a cell, and it is they must be included with both single celled and multicellular organisms. and inside our human body it is estimated to have 65,000 billion cells. Okay, 65,000 billion cells which are actually present inside our human body. That is one simple estimations. And what is the importance of this cell? It provides some shape. The shape can be anything. The shape can be round, that can be oval, that can be irregular shape, that can be like triangular, tubular, oval, round, and etc. Okay, and it carries out different types of functions. Inside the cells we have different organelles, and each organelle is assigned with some important function to perform, and that is what the cell organelles are all about. And it has different functions which we have already understood. Now let us move on. And who has discovered the cell? Let us understand some trivial information. In this trivial information, who has discovered the cell? Robert Hooke in the year 1665 he has discovered these cells. The thing is that he is actually examining the cork. So the cork, which is a cork, cork which is obtained from the plants, which is a dried thing. Okay, so when he has observed this cork under the microscope, what has happened? So he found some empty places like this. So when he has found empty places like this, he is the first person who has named it as a cell. Okay, so he is the first person who has named it as a cell. And next we have Antony von Leeuwenhoek. He is a Dutch tradesman and a scientist. He also had microscope and he started observing various things. He observed protozoa in the rainwater, and after that he also wanted to understand whether his saliva consists of something or not. Okay, he even discovered some bacteria which is present inside his saliva. Because of the contributions which are made by Antony von Leeuwenhoek, he is rightly called as the father of microbiology. So, and then let us move on. Now let us understand the different types of cell. एक तो already classification we have already understood, that is the difference between prokaryotic and the eukaryotic cell. Now let us understand the other difference. Cells are even categorized as two. One is unicellular and the multicellular organisms. So if you want to cite unicellular organisms, some examples if you want to cite, then it consists of amoeba, and there are also certain types of fungi which actually comes under this. And then we have multicellular organisms, human beings, plants, animals. Okay, majority of the plants, they all comes under this criteria. Just remember this thing. Okay, so our human body consists of so many cells. Imagine that here there are so many cells. This part consists of so many cells. So many cells together, they form one tissue. Okay, inside my hand there will be so many tissues which are present. Okay, so together tissues, they will form one organ. Okay, so yaha haath, that is hand itself is an organ. So too many organs themselves, they form one organ system. What do you mean by organ system? Okay, so digestive system is one organ system, respiratory system, reproductive system, urinary system, circulatory system. These are all some organ systems. And organ system together, different types of organ system together, they give rise to an organism. Okay, so a cell say what will happen, an organism will be produced, and at times cell itself is also considered as an organism. Now let us understand about the organelles without membranes. There are some organelles which are present inside our cells without membranes. But there are also some cells in our cell which are double membrane bound, single membrane bound. पहले हम पढ़ेंगे, let us understand about some organelles which doesn't consist of membrane at all. The first category, it is a cell wall because it itself is at the outside of the cell, इसीलिए उसको और एक membrane नहीं होती है. Imagine if this is a house and this house has one compound wall. Okay, this compound wall is protecting the house. Do you think that even the compound wall has another compound wall? No. If the compound wall itself has a compound wall, then that should not be called as a compound wall, and that doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, cell wall is one compound wall, उसके लिए एक membrane obviously नहीं होती है. Ribosomes, we have understood that the dot like structures. Okay, so you know, so just look at this picture. This is endoplasmic reticulum. Yellow things, what क्या है ये सब? They are the ribosomes. Okay, ribosomes, इतने ज़्यादा ribosomes हैं, and they are so tiny in nature. Do you think that they will be membrane bound? No. Okay, they are also not membrane bound. And the cytoskeleton, which also cytoskeleton, what is the use of cytoskeleton. For an example, why are we looking like this? Because of a skeletal structure. Do you agree to this point of view? Okay, cell B, we have understood that different shapes of the cell. Why different shapes of the cell are observed? Is because of the cytoskeleton. Okay, cytoskeleton ke wajah se. And these things are present both in the prokaryotic as well as the eukaryotic cell. And now let us understand about those organelles which are single membrane bound. Single membrane bond में the things which actually comes, they are vacuole. Vacuoles are present only in the plants. Remember that. And the lysosomes are considered as the trash can of the cells. Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, these are all single membrane bound. Okay, so and these are present, they are little complex in nature. These are present in the eukaryotic cell. And then moving on, we see double membrane bound organelles. So what are the things which comes under the double membrane bond? Okay, double membrane bond mein the most important thing, nucleus, mitochondria. Okay, mitochondria, which is considered as the powerhouse of the cell, it is touted to be called as powerhouse of the cell. And next we see the nucleus, chloroplast. Chloroplast is once again present in the plants only. These are present in the eukaryotic cell. And now let us understand the smallest cell in the world. What is considered as the smallest cell in the world? That is called as a Mycoplasma gallisepticum. This Mycoplasma gallisepticum, it stays in the primate's bladder. We already understood about what are called as primates. Okay, we are even called as primates in the taxonomical order. Okay, where we consider primate as an order is monkeys, gibbons, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, even human beings. All of us, we all come under this primates. Okay, so this is present in the primate bladder. Okay, waste disposal, organs, genitals, which means the private parts, respiratory tracts में, in सारे places में Mycoplasma gallisepticum, the smallest cell actually occurs. Then what is considered as the largest cell? Largest cell category में आती है, that is ostrich. Ostrich comes under the largest cell. So just look at that, कितने obelisks बन सकते हैं इस ostrich के egg से. Okay, this is considered as the largest cell in the world. And the longest cell, that is neuron. Okay, just look at this neuron, this is considered as the longest cell. And then the largest human cell in human body, that is called as the female ovum. Ovum or oocyte. Okay, or we also call it as egg. Okay, so these are all the different names for the female ovum. Okay, so this is considered as the largest cell in the human beings. Moving on, the smallest human cell is, once again, apart from that Mycoplasma gallisepticum, we also have RBCs. RBCs have one unique shape, and the shape of the RBCs, it is considered as biconcave in shape. They are called as biconcave in shape. Okay, and apart from that, RBCs में क्या नहीं होते हैं? RBCs are deprived. That doesn't consist of mitochondria as well as nucleus. इनमें neither nucleus होती है या mitochondria, दोनों नहीं होते हैं in the RBC of the human beings. Okay, and then let us understand about the, okay, so here I have actually mentioned about the cell organelles. So cell organelles के बारे में हम पढ़ेंगे, ठीक है? So we already understood what is a organelle and what are the different functions which are they are specified to do. And then here you are seeing this another concept that is called as cytosol. What do you mean by cytosol? So imagine here we have nucleus and यहाँ हमको nucleus is surrounded by endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, this is a smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and then no, this is the rough endoplasmic reticulum which has ribosomes which are present on it, and then we have smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, and here we have this Golgi apparatus which is actually present. So the fluid which is present, the gel like fluid, it is just not a fluid, it is like gel like fluid which is present between the smooth endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi apparatus. This fluid is called as a cytosol. Cytosol mane the gel like fluid which is present between the two organelles is called as the cytosol. Then what do you mean by cytoplasm? The entire gel like fluid which is present in the cell, it is called as the cytoplasm. Okay, so everything in the cell is, did we actually study this point that everything in the cell is cytoplasm and the other organelles are just floating in the cytoplasm? And then let us understand the different parts of the cell or the organelles of the cell. Okay, we have cell envelope, we have cell wall, plasma membrane, mitochondria, plastids. Plastids are present in the plants. Okay, and then the endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, lysosomes, centrioles, vacuoles, and the nucleus. Now let us understand about the different parts of the cell. Okay, now let us understand the cell envelope. So यहाँ आपको this font is very difficult to understand. I will do some modifications. Okay, so cell envelope is consisted of 3 parts. Okay, so what are those 3 parts? एक तो glycocalyx है, and then we see the cell wall. Okay, so we see the cell glycocalyx, cell wall, plasma membrane, and then we see the cytoplasm, which is actually present. Okay, so in the eukaryotic cell there are 3 different layers which actually protects. Okay, so and then that is made up of phospholipids and etc. इतना ज़्यादा आपको it is not necessary for you. So glycocalyx, so obviously it provides you protection and adhesion. Adhesion means sticky thing. Okay, glycocalyx is the outermost layer. So glycocalyx रहती है इधर, and next we see the cell wall. So after glycocalyx, this is one layer of the glycocalyx, and next you see the cell wall, which is actually present, and that is made up of some peptidoglycan strands. Look at this picture. Okay, this hair like structure, this is called as peptidoglycan strands. Okay, so if this cross linking is disturbed, what will happen? The cell will undergo lysis, so which means the cell breaks apart. So these particular cross like hair like structures are extremely important, and we call it as a peptidoglycan, and it has some pores in it. So it has some pores in it. So what is the importance of these pores? They will actually decide what should enter the cell and what shouldn't enter the cell. And then comes the cell membrane. So now we see glycocalyx is there, यहाँ glycocalyx है, and then we have the cell wall, and ऊपर से the third layer is that is called as plasma membrane or the cell membrane, and this is the part which has this connection with the cytoplasm. Okay, so it is semi permeable, just like the sponge. Don't you think it is semi permeable? So if you are dropping some water on it, what will happen? There are some small pores which are present, which will allow the water to drop on the other side. So we have the semi permeable, which allows entry and exit of the molecules. Lipids, if you are consuming lot of fats in your food, so fats in the process of digestion, they break down and they form the lipids, and those lipids are absorbed by our body. Lipids and protein molecules, they help in transportation. That most important thing is transportation. Okay, so here this is the picture related to it. Now let us understand about the cytoskeleton. So what do you mean by cytoskeleton? Just look at this. This provides the shape of the cell. Cytoskeleton ka what is the most important thing? Just like in our body, what is the purpose of the cytoskeleton? It provides shape to the cells, and it has so many different types of microtubules, actin filaments, intermediate filaments. ये सब आपको they are extremely not important to you. Don't think that your examiner will ask about all these things. And next comes the mitochondria. So it is discovered by Altman, and the term is coined by Carrie Benda. Mitochondria is called as, it is touted to be called as the powerhouse of the cell. Why it is called as powerhouse of the cell? Because mitochondria produces one important thing that is called as adenosine triphosphate. That is called as the adenosine triphosphate. Just remember this point. What is this adenosine triphosphate? Eventually we will understand what is this adenosine triphosphate is all about. So this adenosine triphosphate that provides energy in the living cells, like the muscle contraction, nerve impulse, okay, and the other things. So if you are hitting gym, then what will happen? You need lot of energy. So mitochondria is responsible for doing such process. Okay, so these are some important functions of mitochondria. Just look at this picture. इस picture में this is called as mitochondria. So in this mitochondria, so you have some inner membrane and you have this outer membrane as well. आपको there is one inner membrane. Membrane माने क्या है? What do you mean by membrane? Membrane, which means outer layer, the protective layer, outer layer or the protective layer. So here there are some folds which are present. What are those folds are called as? These folds are called as cristae. Okay, and this is the outer membrane which is present. So inside mitochondria itself has its own DNA. Mitochondria में क्या होती है? It has its own DNA and that is called as mitochondrial DNA. So last year what has happened? So unfortunately एक हादसा हो गया है. So अहमदाबाद में एक फ्लाइट क्रैश हुआ है. So there are so many casualties. It actually fell on some medical institute. वहाँ बहुत ज़्यादा casualties हुए हैं. So एक forensic analysis हो रही थी. So where they actually want to identify and hand over those bodies to the corresponding people. Okay, so corresponding parents माने क्या parents, their near and dear and etc. So इस forensic department में there is one way to identify that connection between people and the other people. So where they use this mitochondrial DNA. Okay, mitochondrial DNA is always obtained from the mother. So say for an example, if I have mitochondrial DNA, I will always obtain this mitochondrial DNA from whom? My mother. So it is always maternal. It is never paternal. Okay, mitochondrial DNA can never be obtained from the paternal side. It is always obtained from the maternal side. But why it is always obtained from the maternal side? Let us actually understand. So imagine that here we have this uterus. Yaha imagine that we have uterus and this is called as the fallopian tubes. So यहाँ हमको fallopian tubes है and here you have the ovaries. Okay, so sorry, this is what ovaries actually are present. So for every 28 days, the female body is supposed to produce one egg. So it may produce one egg or it may produce 2 eggs or it may produce 3 eggs also. Okay, usually egg because within this ovaries. Okay, I will just erase this picture. Okay, so now let us actually draw it again. So imagine that this is uterus. These are fallopian tubes. And here you have ovaries. Okay, within the ovaries, when the baby is born, when the female baby is born, she is born with ovaries. Inside these ovaries, there will be so many follicles. What do you mean by follicles? Follicles are just like hair-like structure. When she hits her puberty, okay, there are so many hormones, they play an important role. So it is because of some stimulating hormone that is called as FSH, follicular stimulating hormone, and eventually other thing which plays an important role. And because of which, either 1 egg or 2 eggs or 3 eggs, we usually call it as oocyte or the ovum. They will be released. Okay, and then now it is released and it is now waiting in the fallopian tube. So during this period of time, if fusion has happened, so because of this fusion, what will happen? So the spermatozoa, so usually spermatozoa actually looks like this. So in short, इसको हम sperm करके बुलाएंगे. Okay, so sperm, so many sperms, millions and millions sperms are released, and then what will happen? The semen consists of so many sperms, and these sperms actually dive. Not all the sperms dive to this particular area. So eventually, some are stick to the cervical wall, some actually dive in this path. Okay, ऐसा कुछ हो जाती है. Eventually, this egg is actually surrounded by so many sperms. Some hundreds and hundreds of sperms, they are surrounding this oocyte and they want to try to enter this oocyte. So in which now the decision will be taken by the oocyte. So it will only consider only one sperm to enter into the oocyte. Okay, so what is the criteria? We really don't know. Usually lot of people think that it is a healthy sperm which actually enter the oocyte. That is incorrect. So even it is a healthy sperm or unhealthy sperm, जो भी sperm है, only one sperm is allowed to enter the oocyte. So here if you carefully observe the sperm, okay, so this is its head and यहाँ एक होती है and then this is flagella. This part is called as mitochondria. यहाँ होती है, not this part is called as mitochondria, I apologize. Here actually happens after the head mitochondria रहती है. Why mitochondria is important? क्योंकि it has to dive all the way. It has to dive all the way from cervix to the entire uterus, fallopian tube, and at the end of the fallopian tube is our ovum, which is located. It has to travel all this path. Easily, it requires a lot of energy. So mitochondria is present. And where is the nucleus present? Nucleus is present inside this head. Okay, so when one sperm is allowed by the oocyte, okay, what will happen? It ruthlessly cuts off the rest of the part. What will happen? It ruthlessly cuts off the rest of the part. Only the head allows, only the egg allows, egg allows only the head part to enter. Okay, then what about this mitochondria and flagella? They are left alone like that. Okay, and only the head will actually enter. So head में क्या होती है? So inside the head we have this nucleus. So now tell me, do we actually inherit mitochondrial DNA from the father? No, क्योंकि that part will never enter the oocyte. So now some students ask me this question, ma'am, कि artificial insemination में क्या होती है? Usually if the couple are not capable enough of becoming pregnant naturally, then what will happen? This oocyte is actually taken and the sperm, the semen is collected. Inside that they will actually consider one sperm and they directly inject the entire sperm into the oocyte. So here what will happen in the artificial insemination? Imagine that this is the egg. The entire semen is actually made to enter the oocyte. So अब क्या होगी? So for these people who are born because of this IVF and IUI and etc. in these kids, will they actually have this mitochondrial DNA inherited from the father? In that case also it is not. It will not actually happen because biologically, naturally, we only inherit mitochondrial DNA from the mother. This is not naturally designed, so the nature will not accept. So always mitochondrial DNA is inherited from whom? It is always inherited from the maternal line, not from the paternal line. So last year for another institute, I was taking classes and I made some short, and I speculated that this question can be asked in the examination. And you can see last year in the mains, that question is actually asked in the examination while understanding about the DNA analysis. Okay, so I hope that you have actually understood about this. So the mitochondria itself has its own DNA. It has its own DNA. Okay, we understood about the inner membrane, outer membrane. Cristae क्या है? DNA. So the DNA is freely floating here. Okay, and then matrix. What do you mean by matrix? That is gel-like fluid structure which is present inside the mitochondria. So inside the cell we have gel-like fluid structure which is called as cytoplasm. Between two important organelles, if there is some cytoplasm which is floating, usko hum bolenge cytosol. And with inside the mitochondria, it has its own gel-like fluid which is called as a matrix. Okay, and then mitochondria has its own ribosomes which are present. Isko yahan, so it has its own ribosomes which are actually present. Okay, now let us move on to the other important thing. So what will happen here? The power is actually produces its own DNA, and I think we have enough discussed about all these topics. And then the inner membrane. Okay, so inner membrane mein kya hai? It consists enzymes, carries, and it generate the ATP. Okay, matrix में क्या होती है? It consists of TCA which is called as tricarboxylic acid. Okay, this tricarboxylic acid is present in the mammalian cells. What do you mean by mammalian cells? Mammalian माने this comes under taxonomical order में it comes under mammals. Mammals is a class. Mammals is a class. So who are called as mammals? So mammals are those organisms which have some temperature to their body. They are warm blooded animal. Temperature nahi, they are warm blooded animals. They have some definite temperature and they feed their younger ones with the mammary glands. Okay, so females have breast and inside the breast there are some mammary glands and they feed their younger one with the milk. So those type of organisms are called as the mammals. So human beings are only exceptions in the entire mammalian class because we don't have thick fur on our body. But compared to other organisms, just compare the other mammals which are actually present, un sare this thing mein where you usually observe that the rest of the mammals they have fur on their body. Okay, and what is the importance of this TCA? This is present in the mammalian cells. and except those lacking mitochondria. So RBC में mitochondria होती है क्या? No, it doesn't have. Okay, the mature red blood cells doesn't consist of either nucleus or mitochondria. And the TCA plays an important role in the generation of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. What is this adenosine triphosphate? Eventually we will understand what is this ATP is all about. And then comes the plastids. Did we study that plastids are only present in the plants? Okay, lot of times you see there are so many plants where their leaves are green in color. But have you ever observed any plants whose leaves are which consists of different colors also? Okay, and there are also some plants where their leaves consist of no color at all, they just look pale, they have white color. Okay, so the reason why the leaves of the plants occur green or different colors or white, it is all because of the plastids, and they are just arranged in the form of stacks. Okay, इतने सारे चीज़ को आप don't just remember. Okay, so we have different classification. Chloroplast माने क्या है? So the plastid consists of green color pigment. The pigment which is present here, it consists of green color pigment. Okay, chromoplast माने क्या है? Chromo itself, which means color. Chromosomes maybe we have chromo. What does that mean? Okay, so if you apply dye to this, then only those chromosomes are visible to us. Okay, so chloroplast माने क्या है? So whatever the color, how the leaves actually look like. Okay, whether they are red, whether they are purple, whether they are consisting of some other color. Okay, chromoplast has different colors. And then the leucoplast. What do you mean by leucoplast? So it doesn't consist of any pigment and they are pale. That's the reason why the plants appear white in color. And then okay, so we have understood about this chloroplast and chromoplast. I hope that we have completely understood about this. Now let us understand about the endoplasmic reticulum. So what do you mean by endoplasmic reticulum? So this has some close connectivity to the nucleus. So here we have this nucleus. Nucleus के बाद आती है, this is called as a endoplasmic reticulum. So we have two types of endoplasmic reticulum. We have rough ER and then we have smooth ER as well. What do you mean by rough ER? So if you imagine this to be the nucleus, nucleus में there is another big organelle which is present, that is called as nucleolus. That is called as the nucleolus. Nucleus itself is called as the brain of the cell. There is one name. So there is one name. There is one sobriquet which is associated to the nucleus. Nucleus is considered as the brain of the cell. Inside the nucleus, it has some other organelle, and that consists of 25% of the nucleus, and that is called as the nucleolus. Inside this nucleolus only your ribosomes are actually produced. So once the ribosomes are produced, they exit from the nucleus. How do they exit from the nucleus? Nucleus consists of some small pores. These pores will act like a exit and entry gate. Okay, so from this exit and entry gate, what will happen? These ribosomes will actually come out. So the organelle which is surrounding the nucleus is your reticulum, endoplasmic reticulum. So where the these ribosomes are present, that part is called as the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum माने क्या है? That reticulum where it deprives of this ribosomes is called as the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. I hope you have understood the difference between rough ER and the smooth ER. Okay, rough ER is directly connected. So यहाँ nucleus है तो the immediate part which is surrounded by the nucleus, of course बीच में तो cytosol होती है, and then it is a rough ER. So these ribosomes are now present on the rough ER. So hence because of the rough ER, it is called as it is because of the ribosomes which are present on the ER. It is called as rough endoplasmic reticulum, and then we see the smooth endoplasmic reticulum which is deprived of the ribosomes. So okay, it is also a network of the membranous canals which is filled with the fluid. Okay, so what is the function of it? They act like a transporting system of the cell. So they transport some materials to the cell. And there are two different types of ER which we have already understood, that is rough ER and the smooth ER. So now let us actually skip and now let us understand about the ribosomes. So where are these ribosomes are produced? Did we actually understood that ribosomes are actually produced in which place? They are produced in a place which is called as nucleolus. Nucleolus is present in the nucleus, and the nucleolus is the place where they are born, and that is considered as the 25% of the nucleus, and that is considered as the brain of the nucleus, right? And then what is the function of this particular ribosomes? Ribosomes are extremely important क्योंकि they play a very important role in the protein synthesis. During this transcription and translation आप पता करेंगे, okay, especially in the translation you will understand what is the role of this particular ribosomes which actually play an important role. And then comes the Golgi apparatus. Just look at this Golgi apparatus. Don't you think it is consists of some stack of plates? ओके इसमें कुछ स्टैक ऑफ प्लेट्स हैं, ओके प्लेट्स की स्टैक की तरह दिखाई दे रही है. सो व्हाट इज द फंक्शन ऑफ दिस गोल्गी apparatus? It stores, it modifies, it packages some proteins. Okay, so they also have some vesicles which are actually present. They are used in the transportation of materials. That is another important function which is present to them. And then let us understand about the liposomes. They are called as the trash cans or the garbage disposal of the cell. Okay, so they consist of some digestive enzymes. So whatever the things which are present in the liposomes, what will happen? They just get digested, and that is called as the lysosomes. And then moving on, let us understand about the centriole. Centriole plays, just look at these centrioles. They are tubular like structures. They are extremely important. They play a very important role in the cell divisions. In the cell division, so imagine that there is one centriole which is present here, there is another centriole which is present here, and imagine that all the chromosomes are lined up in this linear manner. So what will happen from this centriole? Some fibers are generated. So from the centrioles are responsible for the detachment of chromatids. Okay, so one chromatid will go to the northern pole, the another chromatid will go to the another pole, and eventually the cell will divide. So who is responsible for this division? Who will actually get attached to these chromosomes? Because centrioles produce spindle fibers. These spindle fibers, which are like thread like structures, they go and get attached to the either side of the chromosomes, and then it actually pulls it apart. That is the reason. So the daughter nuclei will represent the mother nuclei. The daughter nuclei is an exact replica of the mother nuclei, and that happens because of the centriole. Okay, and then let us understand about the vacuoles. Okay, they are the largest. Vacuoles are usually present in the plants. Okay, many smaller vacuoles which are usually present in the animals. So vacuoles आप देखिए, so it consists of container of water, food, enzymes, waste, pigments. ये सारे चीज़ हमको vacuoles में देखने को मिलेंगे. And this is ribosome again. This is ribosome for you guys. Okay, ribosomes में it consists of, even though it is a dot like structure, but it consists of two important units. What are those two important units? Here we have some larger subunit and the smaller subunit. So within this larger subunit and smaller subunit, what will happen? Your RNA is a single strand. Okay, so this single strand actually is decrypted or understood by your ribosomes. That is the purpose of this larger subunit and the smaller subunit. It plays an extremely important role in the synthesis of protein. Without ribosomes, the synthesis of the protein will not actually happen. So then it studies about the amino acids. It reads the amino acids, and the polypeptide chain will actually be present. Now let us understand about the nucleus. Okay, यहाँ से start होती है your entire physical anthropology. So physical anthropology talks about all nucleus में what are the things which are present. So we have nucleoplasm. There is a gel-like fluid which is present even in the nucleus. Okay, mitochondrium में gel-like fluid is called as matrix, and then cell में gel-like fluid is called as cytoplasm. Nucleus में gel-like fluid is called as the nucleoplasm. हम ये न्यूक्लियोप्लाज्म इन सारे चीज़ों के बारे में हम नहीं पढ़ेंगे. Nucleus is considered as the brain of the cell, and it is a larger unit or it is a larger organelle in the entire cell, and your nucleus consists of a very important thing that is called as deoxyribose nucleic acid, which is considered as a DNA in short, okay, which is the basic inheritance which happens in the human beings as well as animals, in various plants as well. Okay, DNA के बारे में पढ़ेंगे. So DNA and how this DNA is replicated, how this DNA is transcribed and translated, and how this DNA undergoes the cell division में. सेल डिवीजन में बाकी के चीज़ के बारे में हम बिल्कुल नहीं पढ़ेंगे. वी डोंट स्टडी अबाउट द अदर ऑर्गेनल्स, व्हाट विल हैपन. वी विल ओनली स्टडी अबाउट दिस DNA condensation, so the highly condensed form of it into chromatid, chromatid to chromosome, so chromosome division, इन सारे चीज़ों के बारे में ही हम पढ़ेंगे. Okay, so by this I am winding up the lecture here. This particular chapter is very lengthy, so this is part 1, and tomorrow we will discuss about part 2. Okay, so this is going to be extremely important and it is going to be extremely interesting also. Okay, stay tuned. We will meet in the other session at the same time. If you really like our content, do like, share and subscribe. Till then, take care and bye bye.